Hey, this is ProjectDiscovery Security. No origin stories, no slides. We are here to talk about how security tools actually gets built, why most production content is garbage, and what it takes to scale trust in open source security community. Friends here with us that raised the Nuclei templates efforts at ProjectDiscovery. If you have used Nuclei in real world, you relied on decisions that the team made, and whether you realize it or not. So Prince, the first question I have is, what percentage of submitted templates are actually usable in production? What would you say on this one?
Before I get started, I can quickly introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Prince. I lead the templates effort at ProjectDiscovery. So Nuclei templates are basically YAML-based templates for an engine called Nuclei, which is our security scanner. And the use of Nuclei is mostly to write vulnerabilities in a form of a YAML template, run it on a lot of hosts and do scanning. It can be anything like local privilege escalation to cloud misconfiguration and everything in between. So back to your question, how many templates are usable on the production?
You don't have to give some answers with numbers and stuff, just like in general intuition, the work that you do and how you see it compared to maybe other legacy detection engines and stuff.
So when you ask the question like how many templates are usable on production, you mean on PDCP or like production of organization?
Nuclei templates, simply. You work on them daily, all the team. So how do you see them? Are they actually usable? Is there non-usable templates there? What's the value for the users if they want to use?
It really depends because we have a lot of different categories of template. We have templates for threat intelligence, cloud misconfigurations, templates focusing on web applications, network misconfigurations, and all that stuff. So it really depends what your use case is. If you are in AppSec team wants to scan your web applications for or the products, enterprise products, CMSs you use for the latest CVs, then that would be something you would be more interested in. If you are a red teamer, pen tester, you want to quickly check for local privilege escalation, then those templates would be something very useful for you. And if you want to scan your cloud infrastructure, then the cloud templates would be useful for cloud. We have AWS, Kubernetes, everything. So it really depends on the context, what's your use case. But mostly Nuclei is used by bug bounty hunters, AppSec, mostly scanning web applications. So that is the majority of the usable applications for most people out there.
Nice. Tarun, would you say something?
Yeah. So firstly, hey, I'm Tarun, and I'm also work at ProjectDiscovery. I've developed and a researcher. So it's like one question I would ask. We have so many of these templates, right? Do you feel like we have enough coverage to be very useful or actually useful in day-to-day role of security engineer, or is it like somewhere we are growing and not up to the market, or what are your overall thoughts on this?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, good question. So before we start talking about coverage, just FYI, in Nuclei templates, we just add templates with full POCs. We don't rely on version-based detection like legacy scanners, which is full of false positives like flagging SSH issues just based on version as criticals. We have been there. Companies and security engineers their inboxes are full of flagged criticals, which are not actually exploitable. So that's not our focus. We just focus on real world exploitable vulnerabilities. And so for that, we just set full POCs. We don't rely on version detection. So when we talk about coverage, the number might not be as much as other scanners that rely on older versions, non-exploitable. But when we talk about CVs, even go on.
Yeah, so I think coverage seems too broad of a term to generally define. So I would say by coverage in this context, I would mean if I have in my company as a security engineer, I want to make sure that like my attack surface I'm doing vulnerability scanning with Nuclei, and there are enough Nuclei templates that cover my tech stack, and and they will continue to add more Nuclei templates for my tech stack. And I will assume that most of my tech stack would be modern and stuff. So I would define coverage in that context for this conversation.
Yeah, in that context, we have really good coverage for all the well-used, well-known, commonly used products out there, be it products around DevOps, basically VPNs or any other platform. We have coverage of all such modern tech stack. And even when we talk about TVs, there are maybe like over 3 lakhs. The number can be off. So there are a lot of CVs out there every year. CVs are assigned for even college projects. So that is not something we are interested in. We mostly focus on products that are very commonly used. So KVs are one of our main focus, because KVs are the CVs in products that are not like theoretical exploitable. They are like exploited by the attackers right now. So if this is a big threat, a product that is like being exploited by attackers, then these CVs every company should prioritize. When we talk about those coverage for KVs, we have over 80% of coverage for all the KVs that are remotely exploitable, that are unauth, that is really critical for your external attack surface. So we have 80% of that coverage, and we also focus on coverage for weak AVs. And when we talk about the coverage of weak AVs, we have over 90% of weak AVs covered. I think it's a really great number when you compare with other scanners out there.
Yeah.
I
So
guess it makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I guess it makes sense when you define it like that. I believe, do you guys maintain some kind of specific list of products, exhaustive, non-exhaustive? Because it makes sense that like you won't be spending time on adding CV templates for college projects or like very legacy projects like no one uses, or even for like Linux kernels where they have CV for even normal bugs now. So do you have these some kind of products, and is it public or something? And what would it if I'm someone at my company and we use some kind of products or tech that may not have currently nuclear templates? So what would the a suggestion would be like, should we create some issue, or would you be interested in adding template for that or something around this in general?
regarding the coverage of the products, so we usually pick products that are very well known, and we also focus on products used by our customers tech stack. So if we see a product being used by a lot of companies to provide the most value to the community and the companies, we mostly focus on those products. We don't currently have a public list of products that we prioritize. We also filter out CVs based on different criterias like remotely exploitable, the exposure of those products on Shodan and other search engines. If it is really commonly used, we have a lot of like exposed instances on the internet, then that is something we focus on. And regarding your second question, we are really interested in, if someone thinks we don't have a coverage for a particular product, then we are more than interested. Please feel free to create an issue. You can start with a basic tech detection or panel detection template, so that once we get to know about this particular new product, and if you can like share some stats like exposure on the internet, and if it is a good enough number, then we can focus on it. So mostly number of exposure is also a good stat that we follow. Let's say if you want to work around a WordPress plugin, if you want to choose if we should be like focusing on those CVs, we can pick up these numbers. If the plugin downloads are over 50K, 100K, then this is something very commonly used and we should be focusing those. So these are some criteria that we focus on when we talk about our coverage, because it's really hard to keep up with all the CVs out there.
Yeah.
So these
yeah.
are some basic criteria.
Yeah, good input. I just want to highlight some of the things that community do for this open source security tooling for us and for broader community as well. So when we say Nuclei campus, that we very well know that there are lots of community users that actually send PRs and contribute to this repository. So I was just curious, like how many, like out of like 100, how many of them like get merged? How many many of them are noisy, and how many are like straight up maybe dangerous, not well intent, and maybe you reject them wholly?
On day-to-day basis, we don't see any malicious template contributions, because all these PRs are validated locally by the team. So let's say if we have a contribution around a CV, we will try to set up vulnerable environment for it, replicate the issue, validate that the POC is correct, validate that the matches are good enough. We won't be flagging false positives, or we are not going to miss the valid targets or hosts that are vulnerable. So we have a very, I would say, in-depth process for validation. Even in the Nuclei templates repo, there are some guidelines for contribution, guideline that is for contributors, and then there also a review guideline for our team, the triagers that work on Nuclei templates team that work on validation. We have a strict guidelines that we follow for all the PRs. When I'm not sure what the number would be when we compare like how many PRs are accepted by the team out of 100, but I would say everything that is accepted is truly checked and validated before it is being worst. So that is our criteria always. We don't want to be like other scanners where we would be flagging false positive. We might have some issues around false positives, some bugs in the template that we are missing stuff and all that. So we actively get those issues created by the community, and we are really quick to fix those. So we basically encourage community to create issues for false positives, false negatives, or enhancement they would like to see in the Nuclei templates, and we follow that.
Nice. So this is like a collaboration between community users and the template team. In total, when you see a template in the Nuclei repository, a Nuclei campus repository.
Yeah,
So
just to add, we have more templates contributed by the community than we create in-house. So mostly this project is run by the community because of the contributions of the community and how they are helping to make the internet space safer. You don't really need to buy any product if you want to scan your assets for vulnerabilities. You can just download Nuclei and scan it. And it is not just useful for you. You can help others by adding security checks for more security checks, vulnerabilities, even by sharing ideas, creating discussions that would be really helpful for the community.
Yeah, great. So just one last question on this regard. So if someone wants to contribute templates today, what should they stop doing immediately? One I can think of, stop being inactive, just start contributing. But what others that you would feel like it's good to stop and, share?
I missed the last part of the question. Can you say that?
I mean, I was just asking if someone wants to contribute templates today, what should they stop doing immediately? Imagine this in the context of when they contribute templates in a certain way, they should stop doing that and just do this.
So you basically means the do's and don'ts of the contribution.
Reverse question, stop.
Okay, got it. I would encourage everyone to basically clone the repo, go through the checks, understand our directory structures, different protocols we support, helpers that we support, and what kind of templates we add. A lot of time, not a lot of time, sometimes we see contributions for some nuanced use case that can be really helpful for them while scanning on their asset. But that is something really not useful for everyone. Let's say something that is like very basic that they want to do, like use for detection and then manually go on and find other stuff on the target. These type of contributions that are not like really useful for the wide audience, and basically would be flagging them with a lot of findings that these type of templates we don't encourage, because it should be a valid use case for everyone, useful for the community. And when you are contributing something, it is best to like share, if you can share details around the reference where you found this POC. And it would be really helpful for the team, for team to quickly validate. If you can share maybe a Docker container for the vulnerability, we can, so that we can quickly set it up, validate and merge it. Otherwise, team have to do all this stuff from the scratch, and it is time consuming. Even we try to like merge all the PRs issues like as soon as possible. So these can help the team quickly validate the PRs. Apart from it, I would say if you see something trending on Twitter or something, most of the time, I think we get contributions around trending CV really quickly. Let's say if there's a trending CV like React to Shell, which was recently disclosed, within, I would say 30 minutes, we would start get a lot of like contributions around those POCs. But sometimes the POCs are, in this instance, there were a lot of like fake POCs circulating over the internet, so we would be getting those PRs as well. So we would encourage, if you can validate before raising PRs, that would be helpful. Otherwise, anyway, we are going to validate those POCs before adding. So these are some basic things that I can think of right now. But we have contributing .md file in the repo, which anyone can go through and understand what type of templates we are interested in, how they can help and grow the project, how they can contribute and help us and the community.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Go ahead, man. Tell it more.
So
Yeah, I was.
it feels overall the process is not more about following some rules, but more about being practical as much as it makes sense, both from triaging and validating and all that perspectives.
Yeah,
And
we
one
don't have
question I
anything
had, like,
rigid. We are not like rigid with our process. We are open to ideas. And if you think we are doing something in a wrong way, we should be adding those checks. We are really interested to hear what you have to say. And so we are not rigid at all, very open to suggestions, feedback.
This is really good. So I work on legacy, scanners as well. So mostly they are closed, and you cannot like add any checks like immediately to finally get out. So similar to what React and Next.js and under one of these. But in Nuclei templates, it's open and you see what's going on and you can contribute. You don't have to wait for someone to read the PR. That's really be a part of it. So yeah, we talked about Nuclei templates a bit enough, like how the team handles the things in the Nuclei repository engine. So I will check the bit. Yeah, templates are there. Like what next? So what next is like scanning. What do you think most common mistake like security engineers, folks make when running Nuclei at scale, when thinking about the Nuclei templates, of course? Since I also work on the what says, I would like to share something so we can start. So we recently add default configuration to not to run my file protocols by default. So any other that you can think of, Chris? And do we have any default configuration to make it optimized way to run the Nuclei templates? So what would you say?
I think a common pattern we have seen is A lot of time user provide, let's say, a full URL with all the parameters and values and pass it as an input to default Nuclei scan. But that is not how Nuclei works. By default, the users are basically expected to provide a root URL or a directory they want to scan or an endpoint they want to scan, and then on it, like all the templates would run and validate if it's vulnerable or not. If you want to run, if you want to scan URLs, like a full URL, you want to fuzz them, then DAS scanning support that we have in the engine would be something they should be using. And so I've seen like they would provide a full URL and say it is vulnerable to XSS, but the Nuclei is not detecting it, but they are not using the DAS flag along with while doing the scan. So this is something we have seen. And also the vice versa is true as well. They run DAS scan by just providing a root URL. That would not work as well, because that DAS scanning would require you to maybe run Katana, crawl everything, have all the endpoints as the input, and then run DAS templates on it to get the true scanning of the application. So this is something common I've seen. Apart from it, it really depends on the use case, I think, because the default scanning works for most of the users. We have like right amount of concurrency, right amount of templates that should be running by default. We don't allow DOS scanning templates. We don't allow templates to run on default scan that can be like that can bring down your host or change configurations in a way that it would be disruptive. So
Yeah,
this is
print.
something we already take care of.
Yeah, run your printer to print something maybe. So that might be also happening if we allow it. So I was also thinking about we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, the naming, a Nuclei ignore temp file to have certain configuration so they don't run. Then can you mention that as well? What would we allow or what we don't allow the Nuclei in default?
Yeah, in the Nuclei templates project, in the root directory, we have a .ignore file where we just basically add either tags or the full parts of the templates that we don't want to scan on the default Nuclei run. We have tags like DOS, fuzz that we don't want to run. That these are not like good for everyone to scan. We don't want to like we don't want users to like fuzz their applications if they don't want to. They just want to do a they want to do a vulnerability scan. They don't want to fuzz it for because some templates produce a lot of network traffic. Some templates may have like 50 requests being sent in a template. So we don't, that are not really useful for all the users. So we exclude those templates in the default scan. We know of some other templates that can be problematic, so we exclude them, mention the full path of those templates in the ignore file, so those would not run it on the default scan. Apart from ignore file, we have support for profiles that is really useful for users. We have different profiles, like a profile called recommended, we have a profile called bug bounty, we have a profile called threat intelligence, or like cloud config review. So if your use case is around threat intelligence, you can choose to just run that profile using the profile flag, and only those templates would run. So by default, we try to make sure everything, we really try to respect like a lot of like requests not being sent, so that you truly test your application, but it would not be like problematic for your application. So this is something we take care of.
Yeah, but how do you like generate these profiles? Like, for example, bug bounty. Maybe Tarun, you can also drop in since you're coming from the bug bounty background as well. So, like, how do you decide on which checks to go in bug bounty profile, which is not proper for it, and vice versa?
Okay, a quick example would be if you are doing a pen test and you are required to report vulnerabilities, info severity vulnerabilities or low severity vulnerabilities like missing headers and all that stuff. But when you do bug bounties, these are out of scope and not accepted by bug bounty programs. So these type of checks we exclude in bug bounty profile, and in pen test we include all these informative severity, risk configurations, and vulnerability that you would want to report if you are doing a pen test. So this is our basic criteria. What works for what use case? This is the basic differentiator for us.
Tarun, what do you
I
think?
would say, yeah. So I think there is a bug bounty profile already curated by the templates team, if I'm not wrong. And again, like there are multiple like aspects of bug bounty. Like one would do full on automation scanning, focusing on particular set of vulnerabilities, like only subdomain takeovers and something. My my experience was more around sticking to a particular target and discovering more of this stuff. So my process would generally involve like running in Nuclei and other tools multiple times rather than single time. And maybe because, for example, some of them, like some templates would benefit from providing some custom like username, passwords, or if a application is protected by some kind of reverse proxy and it's authenticated or something. And if I have those credentials, maybe specifying that header, that would increase like the effectiveness of the scan. And most of the times I would say it's like mix of many things. And generally I would start with in Nuclei, there is like automatic scan option, which is like a lightweight version of the profiles where it actually does fingerprinting first and then runs only the templates relevant to that. That would be my first starting point, but I wouldn't say for at least for me that there involves a single command that would do everything for me.
But usually, bug bounty hunters would not like to use that flag. They would want to run all the templates as much as templates possible. We usually get questions like if you have private templates that you can share, that we can run against our bug bounty, private bug bounty hosts, but we don't have. We just push everything publicly. So just to add, bug bounty hunters would want to run everything at once.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think the approach, yes, that approach depends from person to person. I think because like when I did, bug bounty before I joined PD, my understanding of the tools was very different from it is now. So I would say my strategy or methodology has completely shifted. And now with multiple things going on, I'm not sure I will do manual, like at least what I did before. And on that, I have a question. Since the overall process and everything seems very practical at Nuclei templates and in the team, like considering like how much AI and them have been speeding up workflows, even for a developer and stuff. Like what I think, particularly this year, which was quoted the year of agents and stuff, like how much, what's your thought on this and like, what difference like you have seen being in the team when you compare it to maybe 2 years ago or 1 year ago, and how, and like in general, like how you use it or something like that.
Before I share how we use it, I think we have seen a trend that after AI and all these like agentic security tools, it is basically making it easier or really assisting security researchers when it comes to finding ODs. In the recent years, we have seen really big ODs in really big products that we have not seen before. Researchers are really leveraging these tools to do deep security research. They can like now chat with code base, try out different like stuff that ideas that they don't have to go and test everything manually, set up all the stuff. They can just interact with the code base and share ideas like, is it possible? Is this how this endpoint work and all that stuff? So it is really making easy for security researchers. So that's why we are seeing increased number of CVs in the recent years. And let's say a new CV comes from in like next year's, and the POC is now out there. Now the researchers can use AI to search for to do variant analysis to find similar type of vulnerabilities in the code base in other places as well. So this is really helpful for security researchers, and as a result, we have seen rise of CVs contributions, especially KEVs and VKEVs. And we are also leveraging AI similar to security researchers. We are using it to monitor critical CVs. Out of all the CVs, we are using AI to pick up something that we should be prioritizing. We are using AI to create Nuclei templates, using AI to create the vulnerable environment for us so that we can validate. We are trying to like use as much as we can, and the only last validation step is something we are doing manually. Apart from it, there are a lot of things we are using AI also for enhancements, to updating metadata, to like improving POC and all that stuff.
Can you say that AI can provide a good UK campus today?
I think so. It can write really good Nuclei templates, but at this moment, we are not at a place where we can merge the templates created by AI without validation. So it can create good templates, but we cannot validate it, because even if we if even if we, let's say, used AI to create 10 templates, out of which like 2 3 would be always with either weak matchers or something AI hallucinated, that it can be theoretical like endpoint vulnerability based on the CV description. It is good, but it is not 100% accurate, and we cannot like fully rely on it right now.
So I believe it's a psychological thing. The contrast doesn't allow to fully rely on AI. Like you being skeptical at the end, not trusting AI to be fully automate template generation, or in this case, in other case as well. So what would you
I
say?
think I would say I would disagree with it, because we
Yeah.
have seen in our day-to-day use case that AI is consistent. AI does like consistently create templates that are not valid. So this is not like only psychological, I would say right now. In upcoming years, it is the speed at which it is advancing. It would be way better. But right now, we have seen like it causes templates that are really not valid. So not
mean,
only
when-
psychological.
Yeah, when I say like psychological, even if it write a good template, when you said you can write good template, like even if it's writing the good template, you still will do the manual check, because this is human psychology or whatever. So I was just going to ask a follow-up question, like which part of the template that you think that will be never automated in like short term? When you think about this Nuclei template YAML file?
I use Neo a lot, I use Claude a lot, and they create really good templates. They can, if you just ask Neo to basically create a template, or maybe Claude Code to create a template, set a vulnerable environment, validate it, create a proper YAML template with the description, all the metadata, valid matchers. It is really good. It understands the full context, the type of matchers we add, the common false positives we get. Let's say if we add our XSS template, and if we are just validating it based on the reflection of the input, then there are, without making sure the context is correct, the GS would be executing. So it would produce false positives. So if we give the full context of the repo or full checklist of validation, then it creates a really good template. It even helps with the validation. But I think the final check is something that we don't see replacing anytime soon. Apart from it, all the steps are like from template generation to vulnerability validation to everything. It is already doing really well.
Nice.
To add on that, I think like I'm like a firm believer in terms and stuff. And based on not just templates, like what I've seen is that there is still a not psychological, I would say, but still a trust factorness, which is currently involved in many of the operations, whether it's something, because when we write, if I create a Nuclei template and we have this automated thing where we use AI or whatever, and we are just relying on that without human in the loop, then like that plays like a significant impact because like many people are dependent on Nuclei templates repository in general, like many organizations, even us in our day-to-day work as security engineer and all that stuff. So I feel that these LLMs, there is still the trustworthiness, whether it's about consistency or something. Like even in coding, I believe that unfortunately, as of now, I still need to do code review, but I would prefer if I don't have to do that. So maybe in future something changes for the good, but I also feel likewise.
Yeah, because for nuclear templates, we are trying to solve a really big problem of security industries that are like a lot of findings, false positives. So this is something we cannot fully rely on AI because of these problems that we are trying to solve in the first place.
Yeah, it
Nice.
makes sense.
Yeah. And just one uncomfortable question. So if you could delete 30% of the templates today, what kind of would go first in the templates repository? Just be honest.
I think personally, I would like to delete all the info templates that are just tech detects because if we really talk about vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, those can just detect what you are running. But apart from it, there's nothing much they are doing right now. So if I have to delete something, I would say those templates.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's still useful, right? So you mean like deleting it here and maybe making something equivalent somewhere, or like we just maybe not need it anymore, something like that.
No,
Yeah,
I would not
maybe.
say it is not needed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
So
if I had to, then I would say that. Otherwise, everything in the template repo is really good.
yeah, uncomfortable. I said
Yeah.
CV based templates, overrated or essential?
It really depends if it's KV, if it's VKV, if it's in the popular products, then it is not underrated. Apart from it, college projects, and we have seen a lot of researchers just like applying for a CV in a project that is used by no one, so that are really not of any use to anyone. So we should ignore those. But apart from it, CVs are really good. We have them for a reason. These are the identifiers used by the industry, so not fully underrated.
Okay. So we know like security researchers, the CV is like something holy for them. Then be able to assign one CV to the quantity they found on something is like something holy. So that's why I want to bring up that as well. So maybe close to that one, but not necessarily more templates or better templates. Which one would you prefer?
Yeah, we only focus on better templates because now with AI, if we want, we can generate a lot of templates. We can generate a lot of checks. We can leverage AI to write CV templates for all CVs out there. It would be really expensive, but we can possibly do that. So for us, the focus is quality instead of quantity.
And Tarun, you can also like jump in for this one as well. Do you think the security research or like security research versus engineering, which one do you think that should like improve or we see more?
Many aspects to it. A bold
I want this. I want to know them. That's why.
because I believe personally that Dast exists because SaaS failed. So that's like what I feel like. So definitely, I would say in engineering, a lot needs to change. And like with this, like what I believe with LLMs and this stuff, which is now like a mainstream because like I now use more like I right now like 90% of my code is written by AI and 10% it is not, or maybe less. So I think they play a amplification factor. So if I am used to writing bad code, then everything like it just amplifies it. If I'm writing good code, it will amplify that as well. And just like any other programming language, when I compare myself using LLMs like five months ago to now, I would say like I had to unlearn many of the things and then learn many new things, which impacted like everything. Because when I started with LLMs and stuff, it changed a lot of things. There was no focus, especially in the large projects. It was doing not something I wanted it to do, and like many other problems, not just like few of them. But as I stick with one tool, particular tool, and I used more and more, I picked up many things. For example, one example I could give was that earlier LLMs changed a lot of things, even when we haven't told it to do. And a simple trick or hack was that I just spent a week or something, refactored some stuff, and using LLMs and after code review, I actually wrote like 350 unit test, end-to-end test or something with LLMs, of course. And after that point, like everything changed because even if it made mistakes, I would say run the test and then proceed with next step. And it would say, oh, I changed this, I need to fix this. Even if it diverted from its original trajectory, it would realize it and fix that. And that made a significant impact, I would say. And many things, but in general, but definitely answering your question, I think again, SaaS failed, so that's the exist. So definitely a lot of things need to change. And again, Prince will talk more about the security research part. And I feel in engineering there is this learning new thing about this LLM and stuff. And in security research, I feel there is a lot issue with the standards and quality control, just CV and other things. I think Prince can talk more about that.
No, I agree with you when you say SaaS fail. That's why, because traditional SaaS, I think, is just dying. It has really failed because of a lot of like false positives. And yeah, the SaaS traditional way of doing scanning, SaaS scanning is really dying and being replaced with LLM-based SaaS tools. And they are really good at finding bugs, even the complex bugs. But they also do find like a lot of false positives. That is another problem, but at least we get some of the good findings better than the traditional SaaS.
But can we say like everything about the security now, since adopting AI into security, can we say everything becomes like LLM driven security? Since, for example, the SaaS is like mostly rule based, similar to what we have in DAST or security scanning in the web application. But in the web application context, it is based on the data, the real data that you can actually, check against. But in the SaaS, there are more complexity comes with the other data, the code that you see and check against, because you have to do like gain analysis and inner calls and everything in order to get the actual bounty, right? And some of the bounties that actually is not easy to find if you don't, we call them like runtime bounties, maybe if it's the right meaning. And since it's rule based and you cannot just add one rule on the another, a big chunk of rules and one against one code base and everything, I believe the SaaS with LLM makes much more sense because the AI actually comes into play when you cannot find a solution with the rule-based systems. So that's why since we use AI LLMs in the context of like web application and SaaS now adapting AI, adapted whatever, and the other places as well. So that's why I say now everything becomes like LLM driven or AI driven security. So
Yeah, from red teaming to threat intelligence to AppSec, DevSecOps, everything is being like AI is being leveraged in for everything. Yeah, it would be AI assisted security moving forward.
yeah. So this is
Yeah.
painful.
So
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Yeah, so just wanted to add one more, like insight regarding the rule-based thing in SaaS. So like I've always tried to force myself to be productive in what I do. So I wrote some of these like SemGrep rules or even the code QL and stuff. And even now when working on the Nuclei, we have this whole Dash thing and stuff. I also tried to add many features related to that. And I feel that it's now with all of this, it's like a precursor. I feel like this SAST and DAST will merge or something like that, because when I wanted to write rules regarding to DAST, if it was more contextual, that would be very good. And if we only focus on like issues like when writing with SAST rule, okay, we have source and sync, but like many things, like we have our custom owned libraries, we use abstractions, this, that. So like it's never 100% sure that this something is getting changed from source to tent. If so, how much portion of it and will it impact and many other things and questions. And I feel like the shortcomings of the SaaS are being addressed by Dust and vice versa. So I feel like seeing forward like a merge of like something like that's what I see projecting in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest issue with the traditional SaaS was always like, let's say if you're using a vulnerable library that has a function that is vulnerable, but if we are not using that function, if it is not reachable at all, not used in the code base, then it is not a vulnerability that you need to fix. So this is a big problem, but with AI, and now if AI agent has tools available to spawn a browser, validated as well if it's reachable or not, then it would be reducing a lot of like such false positive issues. And I think everything would merge with AI. It would have all the security capabilities. It is not going to be just SaaS, DAST, or other keywords that we use in security. AI agents would be just focusing on security, everything to make not just code based companies, organizations, or your workflows, everything secure. So all these keywords are going to merge into just AI based security or something of that sort. So these are the fancy keywords used in the industry to sell you different products.
Any closing questions you had on?
Yeah, just before asking my last question, I will ask another one. I want to put this on the table since I know personally in my local community as well. We had bug bounty hunters in the city, and recently he found a like bounty and reported, and he was like, when he told me wherever, he was going to ask like when they will be publicly disclosed, the public disclosure timeline is paying for the bug bounty hunters. So what do you think about this? Is it getting any like longer, or is it like slow or reckless? Just to ask.
It really
As
depends.
as someone who's actually working on the templates, who daily in communication somehow with the bounty hunters, and as someone who is maybe the one or two throughout the year.
Yeah, I think the current timeline for responsible disclosure has not been updated because now we are a lot more productive, maybe 10x productive with AI, and these timelines should be updated. It hardly takes any time to fix those bugs. We can just ask Claude to fix this, and it would come up with a patch, and it might fix other input like other injection points as well. So it's not really hard to fix vulnerabilities, and these timelines should be revisited.
Okay, so the last question: if someone listens to this and wants to contribute seriously, what's the one thing they should study first? Where to go, what to do? I know you refer to contributor.md file, but any other places, or you just say that file only?
Nuclear docs and nuclear template docs would be a good starting point. You should just get familiar with the project, With the different protocols, we support the structure of the template, different type of matchers, extractors we support, the flow, and all the capabilities of engine they should be aware of so that they can write templates for not just simple POCs, but also like complex requests, which requires different type of helpers and all that stuff. And once they are fully familiar with that, they can they should clone the Nuclei templates repo, spend some time there, understand the structure, what type of checks, what type of matchers and everything around it. Once they feel they are like very much familiar with the template structure, then I think it would be a good time to pick up a CV that they really want to test against their own assets or they want to help contribute. And then once they have that CV or a vulnerability or a misconfiguration, they can try to replicate it locally and raise a PR with that template and the debug data. So that would be a good starting point to raising a PR. Sharing debug data or a Docker environment is highly encouraged. It really helps us to speed up the process of validation.